So I'm at a dump site or tailings pile of an old radioactives mine in the area of Ottawa, and somebody was here already. You can see the size of my hand, some large partial mica books, and then there's also apatite here. You got this very lumpy termination, and then this well terminated apatite crystal. You can see the hexagonal crystal structure, and the apatite here tends to be actually kind of like a blue-green when you compare it to like Tory Hill and stuff. So it's quite interesting. This one was just right along there, eroding out of the tailings pile, so maybe I'm going to focus on that little area and see if I can find some more points. Maybe double terminated ones, who knows. Seems to be an interesting little mineralogical occurrence. So I've just been digging into the tailings pile and been pulling out some apatite points with some really funky terminations. Check this one out. I promise you that's terminated. It like grew and then it just stopped growing. It gave up. And then we got just the tip of a termination of an apatite crystal, but it's also really kind of sideways and funky. And then of course there's a bunch of mica and there's some more crummier crystals and stuff. But who knows? I think if I dig further down, it seems the stuff is higher quality, it's less weathered. So that's my plan, is to dig deeper. At this locale, it seems like a lot of the mica, it's I think it's biotite. You can see it's nice and black, but a lot of it seems to be kind of like degrading, and when it degrades, it turns kind of those golden bronzy brown. Pulled out some more pieces. Here's a nice one, kind of that kind of green bluey color that I've been looking for. The camera's picking it up well. But yeah, I'm finding more pieces, more chunks. There seems to be a certain layer that seems to be producing most of it, so I'm gonna try and pinpoint that layer and just focus on that layer. Whenever you are digging a hole, always check on top, because watch this. I already felt it in my hand. Check out this. It's not double terminated, but it's got one of its terminations. That is a huge apatite crystal. Very big. Very nice. Hopefully it doesn't look like... I mean, it might actually be red, which is cool. I'll take it. Pulled out another large one a little earlier before. It's got this really funky termination where it's basically like a couple lumpy points. But yeah, that corner seems to be doing real good, so I'm just going to keep focusing on it. As you can see, I dug out a lot of material. I found some good stuff. See all the points. There's some good double terminated. I believe this one's it's a bit of a wonky one. There's I think there's a bit of damage, but it's double terminated. And then this one, really nice colors and the decently shaped terminations. And I found some more large mica books that I'm gonna take home, and then some question mark stuff. And as you can see, I found a lot. I'm not gonna take all of this home. I'm gonna take the best stuff home and leave the rest for somebody else who would like to have some stuff. But who knows, I might actually come back here because there's some other tailings piles. This isn't the only tailings pile in the area. Like I said, guys, always feel above the top, because guess what? Check out this double terminated apatite that just fell into my hands as I was searching. This termination's a bit lumpy, but it's double terminated. Look at that thing. That is a good size. It's got good gemminess.
And it's kind of got that sea blue greeny color that I'm looking for. That is a stunning specimen. That is why we do this hobby. Looking for things like this. This thing is killer. I can't wait to get this guy cleaned up. What a lovely specimen.
I thought I'd do a bit of a quick cleanup video. These haven't gone through. I want to put my specimens in iron out and give them a bath and iron out. Now, don't do that. I believe it's not good for mica. So when I'm saying I'll put my specimens in iron out, I'm specifically talking about my apatites, my feldspars, and then I'll quickly probably dunk my magnetite chunks in iron out quickly just to get rid of the upper layer of oxidation. But these are probably going to be as clean as they're going to be for a while because I'm just super busy with work, so I don't have a lot of time to do after the collecting stage of a hobbyist's role. You know, when they take their stuff home and clean it and make it look all nice and then put it on display. I don't have time for that right now, unfortunately. I wish I did because I found some really awesome stuff going to this site. But with further ado, I'll just quickly run you through some stuff. I will start off with my magnetite chunks that I got. Just to prove that they're actually magnetite for the folks at home. You can see they're sticking to them. I don't think this is probably the closest I got to like crystallized magnetite. You can kind of see in here there's a cavity where there's the natural kind of lumpy faces of the magnetite, but most of the magnetite that I pulled out of that place, I only pulled out a couple chunks that I that were worth taking home. They're all kind of busted off, and you can see like cleavages and breaks in the material. So it's hard to tell, but this would have been at one point kind of probably an octahedral, but it's just so weathered and busted that you can't tell that. Same with this guy. You can see the cleavage areas. So that was cool. A couple chunks of magnetite. That's always fun. But yeah, it was cool to collect that. Next, we'll look at my mica that I took back. This is biotite mica. Now, a lot of the mica here is from that site was pretty degraded. It seems like in that area, the biotite will turn from a black to like a gold, I suspect. And if I remember correctly, biotite has iron in its matrix. I suspect that what's happening, the degradation, is actually the iron leaching out of the biotite crystal matrix, but I could be wrong. Maybe I'll have to post a bit about that down below. I'll put a sentence if that's correct or not, if my assumptions are correct. I might be totally wrong because there might not be any iron in the actual biotite. This was the thickest book that I took back. This one's actually comparatively, relatively, when it comes to the full book, relatively less degraded. But you can see the outer parts have just fallen away because that's the degraded stuff. So I'll probably have to, when I finally get to it, and you can see there's stuff just falling off. When I get to it, when I have time to do a proper clean, I'll probably slowly peel layer by layer until I get a nice undamaged layer to display on. Same with this guy. You can see this one has not fared as well. The edges are quite degraded. There's like even roots still in there, so these still require a larger deep clean, but these were some of the biggest books that I found. I don't have a lot of big mica books that I've self-collected. Next, this site also had a bit of feldspar. Apparently some of the feldspar can be quite nice from the site. I only found a couple pieces, and They were pretty damaged. You can see this is a cluster. There's a damaged crystal on top, kind of a chunky crystal on top, and then there's a smaller crystal here that's, or not smaller, a larger crystal underneath, but that one has been damaged as well. But hopefully I'm gonna put those in iron out, and they'll look better, hopefully. This one's a little nicer. It's kind of two pieces of a more well-formed, less damaged, smaller feldspar crystals. Actually might be worth mounting, putting on a little plastic base and displaying it, since that's probably the nicest feldspar specimen I'll have from this site. Now onto the main star of the show, the Apatite. Now I'll start off with the pieces that are broken. On this side, I had some pieces that were quite large with some semi-decent terminations for Apatite. These still have to go into iron out. First, I'm going to test it on some smaller specimens to see how the iron out affects the Apatite from this area, because you never know with chemical treatments. Always take test material home with you so that you can test it out and make sure that it doesn't do any funky damage or anything to your Apatites. But these are two large single terminations. Their bottom terminations are missing, damaged, but they'll still display nicely once they're properly cleaned up. Here is another single terminated crystal. It has a really interesting termination where the inside hasn't terminated, hasn't filled out. Now, I have a theory behind this. It seems at this site, and I'll show you once I get to some of my double terminated pieces, it seems as the Apatite was forming, there was a stage where there were Apatites that broke, like they broke across this way, and then they re-healed. And the re-healing that seems to have taken place started on the outside and worked its way onto the inside. So the healing process started on the outside, and you can kind of imagine this was all a bunch of smaller Apatite points that were growing once it started re-healing, and then they kind of fused together, and eventually, if they grew far enough, the center area would be filled in basically as the re-healed parts grew again. Now this Apatite, it's quite grungy and dirty, but hopefully it'll clean up nicely. And its base is the broken part of the base is pretty nasty. But this is, the reason I am showing you guys this Apatite is because it has the sharpest termination of any Apatite crystal I have ever personally found in Ontario. It almost reminds me of some of the Mexican Apatites with their sharp terminations. Like Apatite, as you've seen with a couple examples I showed you, their terminations are kind of rounded and lumpy, and for whatever reason, it seems like the environment that these Apatites grew in wasn't conducive to having the sharp terminations, and so you get the very lumpy terminations. But once in a while, and I've seen examples of other people pull out even sharper examples of this from Ontario specimens, but once in a while you get something this sharp where the point is actually, it looks like a point. You can see it. So I thought I'd show you this because I thought it was quite cool. Since I was talking about there seemed to be Apatites where they broke and started re-healing, this is one of those examples. It's got a good termination on the one side where the crystal didn't break and didn't re-heal, even though it's got a little tiny Apatite starting to grow on the termination. But on this end, it looks like it just broke. But what I noticed with the ones where it started re-healing is with a broken Apatite, for example, this guy, you'll see the break. It's not as waxy as the actual regular Apatite growth where it's unbroken. So you'll have kind of like this waxy, glossy finish to it, where a break or a cleave in the crystal does not have that waxiness or glossiness. It's much fresher. Let's put it that way. It's been broken fresh, so it doesn't have that natural waxy, glossy finish. Whereas with these terminated pieces, and it's hard to, there we go. You can see it has that waxy glossiness, and you can even see there's a bunch of tiny little tiny apatite terminations trying to form. And it's just started, and you can see on the outer edge how I was talking about that one piece. It starts on the outer edge. You can see there's like this rim of tiny little apatite nubs starting to grow there. And this is the first time I've seen this happen with apatite, so I don't know if it's just something I've never noticed. Please do let me know if you've got thoughts on that. But it's cool to see that apatites have that phenomenon where they can actually reheal on themselves. Here are a couple more interestingly shaped terminated apatites, double terminations. You can see this is actually 2 crystals that have grown together. So you got these 2 terminations on this one side. The termination's a lot lumpier for the one, but it's actually 2 crystals that have grown together, fused, and they're both double terminated. This is another example of an apatite where there was a break and it started to reheal. Once again, you can kind of see that glossiness. This one is actually 3 apatite crystals that have grown together and kind of fused together. And then at one point, you can see there's the main one, and there's a bunch of what you usually call cathedral growths, basically like smaller crystals that have grown fused onto the apatite. Now, something that's interesting about the apatite from this site is some apatite almost looks like a sea blue-green, whereas other apatite looks more like the classic green apatite that you expect from Ontario. This piece is a good example where there's a slight blue tinge to it, and in certain light it looks a lot more blue. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's polychromic or diachromic or something like that. That phenomenon where a crystal can have 2 different colors, but I think that has to do with orientation. So I don't think that's this in this case. But it's interesting. Please do let me know, because I think I talked with the person who told me about this site, and he said he noticed that too. And I'm wondering if that happens at other sites where apatite looks like a certain way. It almost looks blue in like maybe I think it was like in direct sunlight. Some of them almost look blue, like a green blue, but then later on in different light they look more the classic green. Here are my best finds, my 2 best apatite finds. They're both double terminated. This one is one of those cases where it looks like it broke and it started growing, and you can actually see the multiple kind of apatite lumpy points that have started to converge on each other. And then this side, the termination is lumpy, but it's a single termination. But you can see, once again, this, depending on how you hold it and how you angle it, there's hints of green, and then when you look at it a different way, it's a lot more the classic green, which is interesting. But this was the largest one I found. I found this on my first day collecting there. I went there 2 days. The second day I had a bit of luck. I found some good Mica books and a couple large single terminations, but my best luck was on my first day where I found most of my double terminated points. This is a nice little double terminated point because the terminations are actually a lot sharper, and they seem to be the first stage terminations and not the rehealing that some of the double terminated seem to have at the site. But it's got the more classic green apatite look. So I'm quite pleased with this one. And I mean, this one is just awesome. This is the I think it is probably the biggest double terminated apatite that I found. Now I know this is nothing compared to some that other people have found, but I am quite happy with this. I think it'll display very nicely. It's got some good color on some of the faces, and hopefully if the apatite from this site responds well to iron out, I'll put it in some iron out and get it a little bit cleaner so that it looks a bit more green. But I am very happy with this, even as is. It's quite a lovely specimen. And I'm thankful that my collecting buddy, my friend, he recommended this secret little spot to me, which is why I haven't mentioned the name so far. In the beginning of the video, I'm sure you guys noticed I didn't mention the name, and that's because I can't tell the name. But I can still show you what I found, because that doesn't really give away the spot, since there's so many other places with apatite this color. But anyways, it was a cool place to collect at, and I found some awesome stuff. We have gotten to the end of this video. I want to thank you guys for watching. If you like this type of stuff, please do like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, please, in the comments below, leave a comment to what your favorite find was, or what you find the most interesting in this video. It always helps out, and I always like engaging with you guys, the community, because that's my main reason I do these videos, is to engage with fellow rockhounds and with the rockhounding community. And thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.